It's sort of fire. Okay, next one's bids for the firehouse roof up there, and tabled it so that people have a chance to look at it. And you get anything for Jim?
I didn't get it.
Okay, well, they go from 22,
22.9.
22.9, 25.5, and 50 some odd.
52.
50.
So what's the difference between the two $20,000 ones?
I got a recommendation on one. The other one, I didn't find anybody that I could talk to about that. And
Do we know either of those players?
this one here's out of Mount Holly's done several.
Uh-huh.
And
He's the
one that handled putting the bids up for said they could go with either one of these two.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The one who started the whole business of getting the bids for us said that they could go with either one of those two.
Recommended either one of those.
Yeah.
Can I say what I think?
Mhm.
I thought the total roofing one was much more specific about what they were going to do, and is also the least expensive of the two, or less expensive of the two. The other one seemed, and maybe he assumes that we know what he means by all those things, but it seemed to be sort of a thin proposal. And if we know that they've done good work for other clients, then I would go with the cheapest one, least expensive one, which is Total Roofing.
Did you get a
I got a recommendation
on
that
Buddy?
one.
I think the Jansowitz one is,
Out of sight.
oh yeah, way too expensive and way more involved than we probably need. Especially if we're gonna change the building. If we are.
Unless there's a particular reason, I having just skimmed them. The cheapest also seems sort of better presented. And, I'm not sure what that's worth, but it's worth something, I guess. Have you heard anybody from the fire department? Do they have any thoughts on the matter? Have they looked at these?
Haven't talked to anybody. I didn't really give it much of a thought, being as we own a building and
Yeah.
there's a few tensions there.
I agree with Linda. I think that there's much more detail from Total Roofing. And also it's cheaper.
So I'll move that we accept the Total Roofing.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? In favor?
Hi.
Okay, now let's see here. Think. I'm just looking
What's
to
their
see,
deposit? Yeah.
yeah, so we can add it to the,
pay order.
right. Guess I'm blind.
It's not the way I bet.
Cause I'm not seeing how much of a deposit he wants. Why do you guys look at it?
It's in the third, on the third page in, there's a small, second, the next one, there's a small thing that has, next one,
Next page.
next page.
Well, it says deposit 0. Right here.
But then it has a bunch of small
Yeah.
writing right here that talks about the percentage if not paid for after.
Oh, good for you. I think I skimmed it.
You know, let's get 2 pairs of eyes on this.
Sure.
You can hold it up to the camera and see.
Contract loans does not cover leak size. We pay interest rate, 30 days.
So when you get to it, you send the other 2 notices.
I will.
Thank them for their time and business.
It doesn't say anything about it.
Mhm.
It doesn't say anything about it.
Yeah, they say specifically 0 deposit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
wasn't
does, right.
blind.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's easier.
Sort of an odd way to
Yeah.
do business, isn't it? I mean, well, anyway.
They did the Colonial House for the co-home
Mhm.
and they had no complaint.
Should we add some number like $5,000 to the pay order if required?
Why don't we just leave it, if they need one, we'll come in and sign a special.
Okay.
order.
That's fine.
That sound reasonable?
Yep.
Sure.
It does.
Let's see. Number 8 is,
Letter of
Letter of
intent.
intent.
This is usually for a road grant that we get, that we participate in every year. If we sign this letter of intent and send it in before, I think May something is the deadline,
May 23rd, yeah.
then we automatically receive the grant. We don't have to fill out an application, we don't have to do a scope of work, it just signs us up moving forward, which is what we've done in the past.
So this doesn't have to be for a particular project. It just,
It
we
does,
just, oh,
currently not right now. We just have to say that, yes, we wanna participate in
and we'll
this
come up with
project,
some
and
project.
we'll come up.
So
Okay.
that would be included in the BMPs. For the general.
Wow, did you just say BMP?
I did,
What is a BMP?
a best management practice for the roads.
Oh,
Line number
Yes.
1, Jim.
damn.
Good for you.
So I'm gonna move we sign this thing.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Grants to aid.
So this is a letter, so this is for this year's grant, so what you just signed we signed last year. So right now, we also, with these grants, have Wyndham Regional come in. She works with the road commissioner. Her name is Lisa Donnelly. And her and Jeff will pick a project. She does all, pretty much the pre-work scope. So she'll take pictures of the road and measurements and a bunch of stuff. Writes out how they're gonna fix it. Jeff does the work. She comes back, takes after pictures and says that it's all done fine. She updates the second segments in the state's mapping roadmap thing. She's invaluable. And
Sounds
it's
like it.
very helpful to have her do this.
Yeah,
And we usually do it every year to my knowledge.
I move we approve and sign this.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
One second. Make sure the header on it says Town of Weston.
John usually takes care of that. Oh, let's see, number 10. Town plan.
So this is just for our information.
Linda wanted to talk a little bit on implementing the town plan and what the next steps are. This is just something that I quickly threw together saying, what can happen.
Thank you. This is really helpful. Yeah, because I just, with a lot of things, they can just sit on the shelf and not ever be paid any attention to. So I didn't know what usually happens with the town plan here in Weston. So that was my question. How are we going to move forward to implement some of the recommendations of the town plan?
Well, you're number 2 on the first number 1 there. We basically already have a capital improvement programs. They just aren't called that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have funds for bridge replacement, equipment replacement.
Yeah.
For the little school painting, town office maintenance. I can't remember them all, but there's quite a number of.
Yeah, we're just covered on that stuff.
Well, and this just says this may include, the town
Yeah.
begins implementing the goals and objectives outlined in the plan. These may include. So I don't remember if there was in our town plan, if there was something about capital improvement programs, but clearly we already have those. So, but there was something about updating the zoning bylaws, I think, in the in the town plan.
And there's
was-
Debbie, there are a couple of lists. Will has a list and Debbie has a list of things that need to be.
I think the
Okay.
development review board is going to start on going through the zoning bylaws. I
Okay.
don't know if they have a specific schedule. I think, it all hinged on having the town plan updated, completed, passed. And then now they can move forward and do that. But I can ask them if they have a timeline.
No, I think they were just waiting for the town plan to be adopted so they could start.
Yeah.
And
But reaching out can't hurt, I guess.
So yeah, this was just like a little, I don't know.
So does it make sense for one of us to sort of look through the town plan and see what next steps might be? I mean, I'd be happy to do that.
I'm happy to do it as well.
And just, I mean, and not, things like, just check with the zoning board and whatever, but also to look at other things and maybe charge some committees that already exist, charge some commissions that already exist with taking a look at the recommendation and going forward with it.
The second item on the zoning regulations adjustment. Take a walk, changing density requirements and develop. I would take a real hard look at that. And the reason I'm saying that is on the news all the time. When they report problems in towns and stuff, it's usually coming out of these high density areas. People just don't get along. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
And if you crunch them together, there's gonna be friction. And so one way of avoiding the friction is not to crunch them together. I mean, I think if you looked right here in Vermont and looked at certain towns, you'd find the same is true.
Right, so that's something for the zoning board to take a look at. But shall Katie and I go ahead and look through the report and
Sure.
maybe come back
Yeah,
in a month or so and
That'd be great.
see what we find. But Shauna, in the meantime, I think the zoning, you could go to the zoning board and see if, now that that's passed, if they want to move forward. Okay.
And on another, we just redid our personnel policy, but there are a lot of policies and things that need to
Be reviewed, yeah.
So personal, that should go in here too.
I was just gonna say the auditor asked for some of them, and one is a fraud policy, which is pretty boilerplate. I'll bring it to you.
Yeah.
Do we have it? We don't have one.
We do not.
Okay.
One thing you can think about if you want to do it is we have driveway access permits. And they're supposed to get a permit before they build a driveway. And then they're supposed to build it to a 76 standards or a 71 standards. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but they're supposed to get the road foreman to look at the project and then get him to sign off when it's done. And there's been instances where they haven't been put in properly. And there's no muscle to make them.
Mhm.
And so I was thinking that if you wrote it up somehow, that the sign off had to be there and record it on their deed, whether the driveway access had been completed to,
Specifications.
so that sooner or later, when the place property changed hands, anybody doing the deed should catch it and somebody will have to fix it to standards.
yeah, I like that. Cause there are a lot of people who, this stuff just is floating out there.
I mean, you can't do anything about the pre-existing ones, but these driveways that aren't put in properly, if water's running out into the road, causes problems in the summertime and wintertime.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you for this. That's really helpful.
So I guess we're down to number 11.
Yeah,
This is the Conservation Committee.
yeah, well, actually, Shauna and I reached out to, who was it, Shauna again?
Here,
Carl Andier.
Yeah, the staff attorney at VLCT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Regarding filling vacancies on, well, conservation commissions in general. And there were two issues. One is that if a conservation commission was set up or authorized or instituted by town vote, that the only way to undo that is through a town vote. And since our conservation commission was set up in a town vote, then that's the way, if we're gonna decommission it has to be done in a town vote. So there's that. And then as to seeking new members, there are a couple of rules about appointing to removal for just cause, and an appointment to fill a vacancy shall be for an unexpired term. We're in a situation where we had three members of the Conservation Commission. One died, Donald Hart, and two have resigned, Andrew Harper and Retta Murphy. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Any case, so we have no members. And so our charge is to attempt with due diligence to find people to appoint to the vacancies to make it whole. The Conservation Commission needs between, I think what they said, 3 and 9 members. Yeah, not less than 3, no more than 9.
Right.
And both of the people that I called, of those remaining members who resigned, I asked them if they had any thoughts on who might be interested in and productive on the committee, and they had no ideas. Honestly, I had no ideas. But I think that's where we are. If anybody has any great ideas about people who could serve on a conservation commission, I think we ought to consider them as a group. But I should add that I don't see any burning issues or any. I don't. If we had a conservation commission, I'm not sure what they would be doing right now.
I mean, you've got the Weston Historical Society, and there's so much of the land in town owned by the government and state and prairie. There's not a hell of a lot. I had the numbers someplace, but there is very, very little land left in town available for anything once you take out the state, federal government, prairie, and
Current use,
current
all that
use
stuff,
and conserved land. Because someplace around here, there's up there's a map of conserved land in Weston, and you take that all out of the picture.
There's not much left.
So is that, I'll be frank, I don't have any idea what a conservation commission does, but is that all they do, is just think about what land should be conserved, or is there?
No,
Are there
no,
other-
there are other things. Hold on.
I read this and I can't remember what it said a
Yeah,
while ago.
let me as an to planning, this is a Conservation Commission. As an aid to planning and community development, select board may vote to create a Conservation Commission. And it may appoint, purpose of the commission is to inventory and monitor town resources, including natural, scenic, and recreational, and town lands that have, for example, special historical, cultural, or architectural importance. It may act as an advisory capacity to the legislative board and may receive and manage money. May also work with other town boards, the district environmental commission, and private organizations on matters affecting resources under its purview. And it may serve an educational function by creating and making available information about natural resources. And honestly, I don't see any holes in this town that, you know, on that list where we say, oh my God, you know, absolutely, we need to inventory and monitor town resources, including natural, scenic, and recreational resources. I don't see that as a need. So.
But isn't it also changing a little bit now with the idea that, you know, with the possible, you know, if we are approved for everything that's going on with the bridge and the dam and all of that, doesn't that include the natural scenic? Like, isn't that already being, like, isn't that already a part of something else? I'm just saying, like if you're looking at Conservation Commission and what we're doing at Select Board, and then like say like DRB, like what are like, when are they like interlacing with each other? You know, like
I'm not sure I see how a Conservation Commission fits into that.
Well, they're monitoring,
monitoring land,
Yeah,
right? So, but it's kind of, you're saying like municipal usage of this land. But that would be something that's already, I don't know, I just don't know if it's like a modern enough place for where we are going in this town.
well, and I could see, you know, potentially, Denny, you were talking about, or you have, we've talked about taking the gravel out of the river up north of town. Greendale Road, right. And yes, part of that is because we can use that gravel and it will make the river flow better, but it will also be more scenic. And maybe that's a task for a conservation to weigh in. I mean, it's an advisory group. It's not a group that makes any decisions necessarily. I sort of think that, actually, I don't sort of think, I do think that that we should have a Conservation Commission, because I think we have some valuable resources here that, and the town plan talks a lot about the value of the natural resources in Weston and the value that they bring to the town and attracting people to the town, both tourists and residents. You know, maybe the Conservation Commission meets and says, we don't know what we're supposed to do, and so then they don't meet again. But I think we ought to at least try to create or fill it.
Well, you might want to look at the existing town plan, because they have sewed the town up so much that they do not want an existing gravel pit in this town.
Right.
I've tried 2 or 3 times and they have, no way.
who is they? The state?
Well, no. When they did the Walker Farm up there, I tried to get 10-15 acres of that gravel pit across the river for our town use only.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Their response, they give $5,000 to the town and said, oh, go buy crushed gravel. $5,000 don't go much.
Is the Planning Commission that did this, or some other?
Somebody, I forget who it was, Brad might remember. He and Brad and I and Donnie were on the select board then. And then when they were talking about doing the sewer system, and it was Rice property at the time, they did some perk tests down there. And it came back to me, oh, there's no suitable roadbed gravel down there. All the gravel nowadays is processed through a machine.
Mhm.
And then I got back to me, some of the best road sand they ever found was down there.
Mhm.
Now the land's been sold, tied up. There's another vein of gravel in town. They zoned it off so that, can't ever be a gravel pit there, so. You might wanna look into, read your existing and see where you're going with this and, you know.
I was just using that as an example, though, you know, the
Right.
riverway and how that.
Well, we haven't got a response yet from anybody. See, we got 3 letters out asking for permission and
Oh, right,
we
don't
haven't
have
got
any, yeah, right,
a response on it.
right.
People can get very funny about things like that.
Sure. So what about, Peter Arison might be a possibility
Yeah,
for the Conservation Commission. Maybe somebody who was involved in the restoration of Cold Spring Brook Park. Maybe somebody who's on the Far Park
Jeff Lennox.
Association. Jeff Lennox, yep.
Lady named Pat Beveridge, she might be interested.
Yep,
I don't know if you know her or not.
yep, I
Mhm.
do. I don't know, maybe one of the ladies of the green, maybe which is the Far Park Association, is that right?
Yes.
Wasn't Mark Refner also on the Cold Spring Brook committee? Maybe not, maybe it was just Jeff.
Yeah. I think, I think we ought to try to sharpen up what we see as their duties and opportunities and obligations
Mhm.
First, before we find members.
Good idea.
Yeah,
Yep, I agree with that.
so you guys have gotten me thinking differently about this, so thank you. We gotta define the mission.
Mhm, mhm.
You want me to put conservation committee on
Commission.
commission, like a month, in like June, come back to it?
You know, could you maybe look up, what do you call it, job descriptions or whatever for conservation commissions, not just what's in Vermont League of Cities and Towns, but other states potentially, or just find out what conservation commissions do elsewhere. Now, I think that would be a good way to start, Jim,
Yeah.
defining what the role of the commission could be. We can take a look at that.
Okay.
I don't know, whenever you get a month, maybe.
So that's it for me on that.
I'm good with that.
Okay, there's a literature in here, executive session. Sent to us.
Yeah, so we got a letter, from Ken Hall, about executive sessions. Basically alleging that we were, well, going into executive session too often or improperly.
Sorry.
And so I I called the Secretary of State, regarding that issue. And I got a response from from a woman named Jenny Proser, who's the head of public assistance at the Vermont Secretary of State's office. And her response was, the open meeting law authorizes entering into executive session only for the reasons specified in 1 VSA 313. So the statutory limitation is content-based and not tied to frequency. And I know that we have been hold on, following that guidance very strictly. So and obviously I believe we should continue to follow that guidance. There are very specific reasons for going into executive session, and we have, and to my knowledge, we follow those pretty darn strictly. So the minutes will show that we reached out to the Secretary of State, and that we that their response was that the entering into executive session is only for the reasons set out in 1 VSA 313, and the statutory limitation is content-based and not tied to frequency. And I think we ought to write Ken a letter and thank him for his concern and pass on that guidance from the Secretary of State's office.
And I think I would agree with that, and not having had any experience with what the select board has done in the past regarding executive sessions, I think if we're just absolutely clear every time we go into an executive session as to why we're doing it, I mean, the open meeting law actually requires that you state the purpose of the executive session. So if we make it clear that it's one of those 15 or whatever number,
well, we usually cite the exact section,
perfect,
which is contracts, labor relations, agreements. You know, it would be VSA 1, section 313, and then the subsection is 1,
right?
And then there are a whole list of things, and we cite those.
Good. So as long as we do that and it's in the minutes, then I don't see what the
and then if we don't necessarily, we can just discuss something in executive session as long as it's one of these things. But if we come to any conclusions, then after we exit executive session, we make a motion on what we decided and approve it in open session.
Right.
So, and that's the usual.
Right.
That's the right procedure. So.
Yeah.
All set?
Yeah.
And I don't think we need a motion for that, but would you just draft a letter to him, and you and I will look at it over and just make sure that we respond.
Thank you for doing that research, Jim.
Okay, zoning report, Will says he hasn't getting permits for the first quarter, and he's cut back on his hours, and he's worked some on a couple of long-term projects.
I love this kind of report.
Yeah. Just a thing of beauty.
One sentence.
Next one, copier contract.
Oh, you're up.
I'm up.
Yeah, this is your big moment.
My big moment. So it's been 5 years since we've had this conversation. Missed it. But our copier is on a month-to-month right now. The renewal would be 111 per month versus 99 and some change. They've dropped the prices a bit for the black and white as well as the color copies. So he really didn't think it would be significantly more than $8 or probably $10 a month. To go with a new one that is virtually the same that we're currently using. We have had no problems with that. It includes maintenance and all the ink, so we haven't bought ink. I know, that's huge right there.
It's a laser printer, right? So those laser cartridges,
Uh,
they're long things like
long,
this.
thin, skinny.
Yeah, they're
but
on
it's
little
actually-
tubs.
And they're expensive.
They are expensive.
I can't believe that ink is included in
Right,
that.
so ink is included,
Wow.
but our ink, I don't know what kind, if it's laser or what it is, because it actually comes with a powder that goes into a long tube, and I've not replaced the color tubes on that in the time that we've had it. We don't make a lot of color copies. We've changed the black and white a couple times. But yeah, so ink is included. Maintenance is included. They kind of monitor it online, and then if we've ever had a problem, we haven't had a problem with this one. We had a problem with the last one, but we've had that for 7 or 8 years. Anyway, they recommend doing it now because the tariffs will come and they will impact the price of future improvements. If we were to keep this one, our monthly cost would go up as well as our maintenance cost, because as the machine ages, they charge us more. And so,
Oh,
So I don't need to hear, we're getting a new machine. It's gonna cost us less. I vote we get a new machine.
I second that.
Or I move that we get a new
I
machine.
second that motion.
And I'm also gonna vote that way, just in case you're wondering.
All those in favor?
All right,
aye.
Alright, I'll take care of that. Number 15, listers wanna use. Uh-oh. 22nd, 23rd, 4. Oh, no. Okay. So see, here's part of our answer, folks.
Hmm,
They're gonna have hearings on them 3 days. So then probably take them, unless they work extra. As far as I know, they are only coming in on Thursdays now, but they might. Is that true?
I don't know if they're gonna work next.
Yeah, but I mean, right now they're only coming in Thursdays, right?
Greg comes in usually on Monday or Tuesday for a few minutes, but mostly Thursday.
Alright, so. I'm just going a little off track, but this is just giving us kind of a timeline. They're gonna be the end of May before they make any decisions. And then now I'll start the other appeal process to the Board of Civil Authority sometime in June.
so they're meeting on Saturday.
Yeah, they meet.
Mm-hmm.
So this is I'm sorry, these are the reappraisal hearings. So people have already gotten their
Preliminary.
appraisals.
He said preliminary.
Okay. I'm sorry. So the appraisals have already gone out, and so these are people coming to question the appraisal? Is that what these hearings are about?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so your point, Denny, is that puts the timeline later than we thought, actually.
Well, it's a
Potential.
starting point for us to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Like I say, I'm just asking questions and I'm not pushing one way or the other. I'm just,
well, I think we certainly should approve.
Yeah.
yeah, this, and
Yeah.
we should at
Yeah.
least be kind of thinking about what's coming down the pike.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on it, Kim?
I don't know. I'm not
You're
trying,
taking the fifth, I know.
well, I don't know enough about the process and I'd really like them to come. The state has to give us a school tax rate by July 1st. So how can they do that is my question. If they're just getting our revised grand list, mid to late June, do we get, I just don't know. I'm not trying to cop out, I just don't know.
Well,
I
then,
agree that we need more answers.
based on what you just told me, is there any way you can call up to the state and explain the situation we're in and ask them?
Yeah.
What might
What
happen?
happens? I mean, how does this work?
I'm not trying to cause a big problem, I'm just trying
I
to
don't-
avoid one.
I don't wanna have to send out tax bills twice.
No, that's right.
So we need motion, to let them use the room.
Yeah, I moved that.
Second.
All those favor?
Aye.
All right, so now we got the,
Oh, you know what, I made a note that the Vermont League, this is back on appraisal. The Vermont League of Cities and Towns is holding a training for effective tax appraisal hearings. On the 14th of May. So I assume that
Where's that gonna be?
it's either online or in Montpelier.
Oh,
And it's from 9 to 2:30 on Wednesday, May 14th. I think you sent out a thing about that, Sean. I think you sent us.
Yeah, I got that email.
Yeah, I think that might be useful to go to.
yeah,
I was not going to attend that one, but I think it would be useful.
do you have that, a link to that? Could you send it to me?
It's on the website. You just have to go under the training.
What website? Oh,
The
VLCT.
You can sign up.
Actually, Sean has sent us that anyway in your select board email.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry. Where are we? Oh, the payroll, okay.
you did hear us say on the roof, did him that if the guy needed a deposit out of work order, we'll stop and sign it. Cause we looked his bid over and it didn't require one.
well, I'm gonna just to get things rolling here, I'm gonna move approval of payroll check warrant report number 8 in the amount of $10,989.91.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's my pen.
Now it's right beside your phone.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. And then we've got 8B, which I already signed for logging training, Seth, and then so I'm gonna, just to get the ball rolling, I'm gonna move approval of accounts payable check warrant report number 8 in the amount of $21,342.29.
Where's the money for this Maggie Ford consultants coming from?
The bridge. The bridge, fund, we've been billing her through the bridge.
Has that been coming through grants?
Well, we have to ask for reimbursement.
Okay, yeah.
So it goes toward the 50-year
The MTAP, yeah,
for the MTAP.
but we're gonna run out of that at some point.
I think this does it. I think
Okay.
this just about does it.
Okay,
So now that we're done spending it, I'll request the reimbursement for it.
okay,
You made a motion, right?
Yeah.
Second,
Second.
Thanks.
all those in favor?
Aye. Oh, it's scissors, huh? Wow.
Yeah, I lost them at the last election.
Thank you.
We're done, right?
No,
No, accounts payable.
no, it's
That's
done.
Wait,
now.
no,
just
sorry.
did that.
Old and new business.
We got old
Old
new
new
business.
Sorry.
Old and new business, Donna answered one question, no letters back from the landowners that we sent letters to. You didn't receive, resume for the guy that applied for the job,
No,
so that's kind of dead.
I may have scared them off.
Oh, for
And-
the
For the road foreman.
road foreman, right?
Yeah.
And what's the situation on this grant application?
Which one?
For the bridge and the dam?
The final, application is going in this week, and we got a request to basically sign the application.
There's another
Uh,
form that it looks like Alyssa sent me. She was
Yeah.
wondering if you could sign.
Yeah,
for
and
her.
I'll stop by tomorrow and we can sign it, and then it goes off, gets reviewed by the
FEMA.
state commissions, and then in June, the state commissions review all those grant requests and pick the winners. And those winners get submitted to FEMA, and then FEMA picks the winners out of that group. And that probably won't be until basically first quarter of 2026. And at that point, the final engineering studies get done. And they've done estimated costing, but they're gonna do the detailed designs that are gonna address all the concerns that the library has and the community association has about.
But the select board doesn't get a chance to review it for
Well,
those. We had a
we're
lot of
glad to.
concern. We had a lot of concerns, and I figured we'd have it to review tonight. I left you a message.
Those concerns,
That's all
they're not
on
gonna
the
get,
table.
they're not gonna get addressed in this round.
Then how the hell can they write a grant application asking for money if they don't address whether that's hazardous waste and where it's gotta be
Well,
trucked?
if it's hazardous waste, then it's hazardous waste and they're gonna have to deal with it.
So you're gonna ask for a grant to do this project, not knowing where that stuff has to go. So if it goes to Timbuktu, who's
It'll be
gonna
in-
pay the overrun?
Not us.
Well, I myself need something more than just word, not us. And so all that time we spent on it, the concerns didn't get addressed. That
Okay.
stinks to high heaven.
Uh,
I'm starting to get a little.
I-
Yeah,
Denny, those concerns have all been,
you just said they hadn't been addressed and weren't going to get addressed.
they've been submitted. So they know about these concerns. They know about the library's concerns, a whole list of them. And they know about the community association's concerns.
And the concerns about the hazardous waste.
And
on the list.
yes, and the concerns about the hazardous waste are concerns.
But they're not written into the grant.
This is a this is really, I think, a preliminary application. That the state will approve up to a certain point, and then it goes to the federal things. And at that point, between the state's approval of this preliminary grant application and it going to the federal FEMA, there will be more design, there will be more specifics put into it for that second grant round.
What I'm reading into it is they'll fall by the wayside. We'll get a grant for X number of dollars, project will get started. Whoops, we're short of money, then the town will get stuck for the balance.
I think those timeline's a little bit different. So that the state reviews, picks the winners, then FEMA picks the winners of those winners. And if we're in that group, then at that point, a 1 year long detailed design process starts with which will address, I've been assured by the civil engineers and by Alyssa Savetto at Wyndham Regional, that that all those concerns with the height of the road deck, access into the driveway, sight lines, possible pollution in the silt in the river, structural issues, possible structural issues with the mill building when you remove the dam, because the dam comes right up to the corner of the mill building. Dry hydrants up at the firehouse and down here, and the dry hydrant. All those concerns will be addressed in the final design.
Is any of this in writing?
Well, what I'm trying to understand is, in your question, Denny, is, let's say they, in their final design, they determine that there is pollution in the silt, for instance, or there is hazardous waste, and disposing of that stuff is going to cost more than they thought. Then you don't have enough grant money. You don't, and at that point, the project doesn't work. And that's a concern of mine with regard to the dam removal. The actual cost of meeting the requirements of the library, I don't see those as I don't see massive additional costs involved in solving those problems. For instance, if it turns out that we can't raise Lawrence Hill Road 1 inch from where it is now, where it passes and there's no adjustment that can be done to the grade between the ending of the bridge deck and that driveway, then just thinning the bridge by having it be a pony bridge and widening it by moving the east abutment on this side of the river out 12 feet increases the hydraulic capacity of the bridge by about 35%. And that's a big number. That's a big improvement. That really reduces the flooding in town. So, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that we're going to find that if the Bread Loaf and, Ted and, the library's consultants can say, okay, we can raise the level of the bridge deck, the top, the travel level, 4 inches, and blend it in with the arc of Lawrence Hill Road before the driveway. And we can stand to raise the lip of the driveway by 2 inches. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a half a foot that we can raise the deck of the bridge. And now we're up to 40 some odd percent. And it's those little tweaks that we're all gonna work those out, and they're not gonna cost, there's no additional cost to those things.
Right, so what you're saying is that should it turn out that there is hazardous waste and it's gonna cost more, then we just say, we don't want the grant, we're not gonna do this.
We can say
Either the town
But
decides, yes, we'll
that's
pay
not
for it.
that's not our decision to make. That's the community association's decision
Right,
to
over
make.
there, yes, that's right.
Right, and they may say, hey, listen,
Good,
uh,
right.
we can't afford not to have that work done because it's gonna cost us, we're gonna have to upgrade the dam, which is gonna probably be more expensive than tearing it down.
So they'll
but
do some fundraising to pay for that.
they
The
might
only
do
thing
some
we're
fundraising.
responsible for.
Or not, we don't know.
Right, right. The
So
only
is
thing
this
we're
some-
responsible for is the library.
This is a 2-part grant.
Yes, absolutely, it's 2
Town of
grants,
Weston for the bridge.
and the WCA for the dam.
I hear you talking, Jim, but some of the things that have happened over there haven't been accurate, so I'm not.
Well,
You had a sewer system over there, you tore the building down and you lost your sewer system. So now the town's gonna get a white elephant of 2 storage tanks that we have to pump every so often.
what are we talking about?
The sewer at the library. You told us that you couldn't put in a sewer system over there.
Oh, now you're talking about the library now.
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah,
so there's a,
Right now, it's at
There'll be-
$500 a tank per pump.
yeah, and then you pump it twice a year. That's the rough calculation.
I don't know how big the tank is that they're putting in
Yeah,
or
I think it's
whatever.
a,
And that's not
1,500
on the
gallons,
town
something
anyway,
like
it's
that.
on the,
that's library
It's on
operating.
Well, where's the
library.
library get their operating money from?
well,
From
they
the
get
town.
some from the town, but they also get it from donations and grants.
And you compare the cost of installing a septic system and maintaining it, and all of a sudden 2,000 a year for pump out doesn't sound too bad. I mean, but that's library's business.
Well, when the town's feeding them 100,000 a year, 50,000 for the building and plus their regular budget, it's not all, it's part of the town business too, it's our
Mhm.
tax dollars.
Yep.
I just,
I think, I appreciate your concern about these details, and I think it's important that you continue to remind us of those details.
Those details, they're at the heart of this thing.
Yeah.
To make it work, those details they're not being ignored. They're received and, on a punch list, and those guys know perfectly well that they've got to solve those problems have to be solved.
at the last meeting, you told me I'd been here a long time, and I have been. And usually what happens is this stuff just gets forgotten about.
Okay, well, let's make sure it doesn't.
Yeah,
You'll have to excuse me for
That's
not
all right.
all
No.
jumping for joy on this.
I get it. I get it.
With the town itself has been burnt badly by the state too, so.
well, I'll tell you what, if this money is still here and FEMA is still here,
Well, that's
by 2026,
that's
I'm
probably the
gonna
bigger
be,
concern.
I'm gonna be jumping for joy, so,
Yeah. I think that may be our bigger concern.
yeah, yeah. And that would be, I mean, for all the work that all of us have put into this thing, to have it, blow up in our faces would be, yeah, that would be definitely being burned. So,
Someday I'll explain how the state burn was bad.
Let's not do it tonight. I'm tired of being burned by the government right now.
yeah,
Yeah, 15th of April just passed.
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
Okay.
Unless somebody's got something else, I guess we're adjourned.
Jenny,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you have to do Katie.
so
Let's,
I'll stop by tomorrow.
Recording stopped.
Send me a text when you,
Get together and
Sounds great.
you work when you work
Have
Monday.
something
My
to
Tuesday.
schedule
yeah.
is kind of like
I
a
can,
little
even you
all
and
over
I
the
can
place.
work,
I'm
yeah.
only like paring down a little bit, so I have a fair amount of time in my hands.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So
I'll just start looking at stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We'll just go through that and then I'll be in touch.
Great. Good.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Oh, wow.
Getting any easier, is it?
Well,